Hi, my name is Kevin McDonald, and I'm declaring my independence. Independence from what? Why, negative thoughts and energy, of course. Chief among them, hate, division, and fear. You see, I know that we're all one, and together we can solve any problem, save our planet and each other. Please, join me as we come together as one and choose a better way to be. So now, let's begin with my independence report. And welcome to another episode of my independence report. I think this is somewhere around 380 something episodes, and we've got I've got a really wonderful guest with me today that we're going to kind of do a really cool thing. It's going to be kind of a simulcast and a live radio show on Monday, so it's going to be like my independence report now, and then I'm going to post it on Positive Talk Radio, the podcast, and the video cast, and then it's going to go on KK, and he's going to come back. I twisted his arm, and he's going to come back on Monday, and we're going to.
He's still a little sore, but it was worth it.
Well, first of all, I could never twist the arm of a police officer. I think that would be probably a bad idea.
Yeah, well, we're just human.
I know. But before we begin our discussion about Tyson and his gift, and this is Pepper, who we'll get into who Pepper is in a little bit. But first of all, I wanted to thank you specifically and your work collectively, because I was a bus driver for 11 years.
Oh, were you?
Yes, in downtown Seattle and thereabouts, and I can tell you a bunch of stories about how you guys came and saved my ass.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be an interesting job, good and bad.
Yeah, it was a great job because I learned a lot about energy and taking care of people and myself and stuff. But I also learned that there are some times when you need assistance, and when I would call for assistance, you guys were always terrific, and not just for me, but for the people involved, and we're really trying to seek a positive outcome.
Awesome.
And I think police by and large do that. Then one of these days I'll have to have you back, and we'll have to talk about the police thing. But that's not why we're here today.
Right.
We're here to talk about your book.
I appreciate what you said, though. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
You're more than welcome, because if you talk to the bus drivers that up and down the line, they are very appreciative, because you guys do a great job and help us. But anyway, we're going to talk about Tyson's gift. Now, this is Pepper. Pepper's a special guest, and she and we're going to talk about if she doesn't fall asleep first. We're going to talk about her and how she relates to Tyson and all of that. But first, let's talk about you. And tell us a little bit about your background. We know you've been a cop for 10 years. What else do we need to know?
Well, I mean, before that, I was, I did a bunch of different things like you. I drove for DHL and FedEx and Alhambra Water, which I don't know if it's Alhambra up there or not. It's a big company, so it's the big green water truck. Yes, I did that. And actually, originally, I my degree's in film. I originally set out to be a filmmaker, and I did the Hollywood thing for a while, and it just didn't agree with me. So I decided to make a change there. I was one of those people that took me a long time to figure out what I was going to do with my life. I was a personal trainer for a while. I was a substitute teacher. For a while I was going to become a school teacher, and then I decided that wasn't the right fit for me either. So yeah, I definitely was a kind of a, lost soul for a bit. But since then, are you talking about like specifically with the spiritual stuff, or just background in general?
Well, I believe that your collective life experience were all provided for you and helped you through with the goal of you getting to where you are today. For instance,
absolutely.
Being a filmmaker, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Tyson's gift becomes a movie sometime down the road, and because the book is masterfully written. You've done a really good job of It really is,
Uh,
and it
uh,
goes through your metamorphosis, if you will, to something better. And Tyson, which is a dachshund previous to Pepper, was
mm,
was the
that's him right there.
super dog.
Yeah, that's
And,
him.
and he was a catalyst, if you will, towards something better for you. Explain how that all worked.
Well, when he came into my life, my wife and we were just on the cusp of getting engaged, and we're working through a rough patch, which we got ours done early before we got married, as opposed to while we were married, which is a good thing.
Congratulations.
It's proven to be a very good thing over the years. But you know, when I was a child, that I had a number of really difficult experiences with animals, specifically dogs, that were taken away from me, and I in my adult life, I hadn't even considered getting a dog because, one, I was in my when Tyson came into our lives, I was in my early 30s. So yeah, you're a little unstable in your 20s. You don't want to have a dog that where you're not around for them. But it hadn't even really crossed my mind. I think mainly because of all the trauma that I had as a kid. And then so Tyson comes into our lives. At first, I was completely I didn't want him there at all. I was working through things with Misha, my wife, and when she told me she was getting this dog, I took it as, well, wait a minute, what about me? I was like, I, I was kind of jealous at first because you're getting this
Sure.
little dog that you're going to dote on, and you're supposed to be doting on me right now. Um, Not to mention the fact that he's this little Chihuahua mix, and my experience with Chihuahuas, they're just little nappers, and just nip at your ankles and bark at you, and I had always pictured myself with a bigger dog if I was ever going to get a dog. And so it was the last thing I was expecting or wanting. So Tyson comes in, and long story short, he was a real piece of work, real pistol. Like he didn't like me at all. At least he pretended not to like me, which was unusual because most of the time dogs always took to me immediately. Um, and so I had to really earn his trust and love over a fairly long period of time, a couple months before he really let his guard down. But the, you know, the reality was that there was an immediate respect and love between us that just it took a while to completely show itself. And anyway, so what ended up happening was in the process of us growing together, he opened my heart. He opened my heart in ways that I didn't even realize it was closed down. Um, all of a sudden, the amount of love that I had for this dog, it enriched what I gave to the world in general, not just what I gave to the dog. Um, and there was the other thing, I came from a divorced family, and there was trauma in there, and I just found that the healing that he was helping me to get was something that no other being was capable of. This special dog was on a mission, and it wasn't done in a conventional way, but he achieved his mission big time.
And how
So
long did you how long did you how long did you have
well,
Tyson?
we got him in 2005, and he passed away in 2018. So we had him for about, I guess, 12, 13 years, or just under 13 years. But we know he was about 14 when he passed away. It was, you know, it was the fastest 13 years of my life. And from the moment he came into our lives, even when he was being a pistol toward me, I knew it was special. And I savored every moment with him, and didn't make it any easier when he went, though. I'll tell you that.
The hardest thing
Uh,
in my life is when I had a Australian Shepherd Labrador mix, which I'm going to tell you a story a little bit later about, and he died at 8, and he had cancer,
mm,
and
uh,
it's the most heart wrenching thing that I can
uh,
imagine, and you know how tough
that's
it
too
is.
young. That's
Yeah,
too young, though. Too. That's one where you didn't expect it.
no.
You're not prepared for that.
He
Yeah.
we found out he was sick, and they said we can operate and give him 6 months, but that's about all you got. And so that was really so. So we got another dog, and Wesley was with us for 15 years and stuff, and then that was hard at the end. And so I know exactly what you're talking about, and I didn't. To this day, I'm waiting, and I don't know what I'm waiting for, but I'm waiting to get
Mm.
the right dog in the right circumstances, and it will come to me if it's meant to be.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You will know. You will absolutely know when it's the right time. And like Pepper, she came to us. You know, it wasn't something we went after. It was she came to us.
By
So
design.
and we were definitely ready, but yeah, I wouldn't have you wouldn't have expected it. That's for sure.
That was by design, and we're going to talk about that
Mhm.
because when Tyson passed away, something happened to you. What was it?
Well, so I really had a spiritual awakening. I I was not. I was one of those people that I wasn't raised religious. I was raised in an agnostic family, but I had tried religion on a number of times throughout my life. I was even engaged to, before my wife, obviously. I was engaged to a very religious woman, and what made us break up was that I couldn't find truth in her religion, so I couldn't convert, and so it was something that I had tried religion on a number of times and it never took, and I equated religion with spirituality at that point in my life. I mean, I knew there was more, but I thought as far as the practice of it was concerned, the only real paradigm to do that within was a religion. And so I had decided that it's not for me. It's never going to be for me. I'm never going to be convinced, and that's okay. I know there's more, and I know I'm never going to know what that is, and I'm just going to go ahead and move on with my life. Well, when Tyson passed away, and here I am in my mid 40s, and when Tyson passed, and I obviously had lost a number of people and friends throughout my life, and I just sort of accepted, that's life. They're moved on. They're in a better place. Maybe I'll see him, maybe I won't. I don't know. But when Tyson passed, it was different because as my beloved dog, he wasn't just he wasn't just somebody. He was he was like a child to me. He was like a best friend to me. He was like a mentor in some ways. But the thing, I think, when you have they're totally innocent. Dogs are completely dependent on you on a certain level, and I think that creates a certain protectiveness that you have over them. And that type of love is, it's like how you would love a young child, like a toddler. It's that same type of thing. When they go, it's like, I need to know they're okay. And I didn't, in the beginning, I didn't even realize that was what was happening. I just knew that I was in agony, but I found myself asking those questions, and and I asked them to people that I thought could answer them for me. and and the answers I got were discouraging, to say the least. And so what I ended up doing was I read a book called Animals and the Afterlife, and it's written by Kim Sheridan, who's a doctor, naturopathic doctor. She documents a lot of metaphysical experiences she had with animals. She herself is psychic, and experiences that she had with communications with animals on the other side, reincarnation, and it's all written in a memoir fashion, nonfiction. And so as I'm reading it, I mean, it's super compelling. The only reason I read it was because I was just looking for some comfort. I went on Amazon and I thought, okay, I I need to just read stories about animals being okay in the afterlife. I don't care if it's true or not. I just need to read about it to warm my heart right now, because I was in a lot of pain. So I punched into Amazon animals and in the afterlife, and of course the first book that pops up, Animals and the Afterlife, right?
Of
So I read
course.
this book, and it's so compelling to me that it was like, okay, either she's making all this up, or this is for real and it's worth me exploring, if because I want to be able to connect with Tyson if I can. So that's what I did, is that I ended up consulting with animal communicators, a number of them. And I'll honestly, the first two, I was very, very skeptical. I was not about to just believe because I was in pain and wanted some hope. If I was going to take this seriously, I needed to be convinced, if you will.
Of
Um,
course.
and so the first two didn't. It's not that that they weren't legit, but the information that was communicated didn't convince me. But the third one blew my mind. And I mean, it was everything from physical ailments to specific information about my relationship with them versus my wife's versus my daughter's, things that you couldn't know. Um, and I still wasn't fully convinced, but I was definitely on my way. And then I ended up having more experiences as I explored. It was a kind of a lot to take on. This was over a period of time as I let it kind of assimilate into my consciousness, because I was fighting a lot of skepticism of my own skepticism, but slowly but surely I had enough experiences um, with intuitives where it was like I'd have to be a fool not to think that this is real, or at least at this point it's like you're not being realistic if you're dismissing it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Oh,
Like before, people
absolutely.
say, "Oh, you're full of it," but now it's like, well, there's I've seen enough at this point to where it's like, I think you're kind of in denial if you don't admit that this is true. So, and then from there, once I got to the point where I had no doubt in my mind anymore, or I shouldn't say no doubt, because we all, we're still in this
Sure.
physical realm, and there's not everything is visible all the time. But once I got to the point where I realized that no, this is true, I started trying to explore how should I open up? How can I start on my journey? Because couldn't believe that Tyson wouldn't start me on this journey without there being a higher purpose to it. And so I got in. My first thing I did was I got into Reiki, which is energy healing. It's a Japanese form of energy healing, and the energy comes from divine source. It comes from spirit, and the human practitioner is the conduit. And so I started doing that. I again, it was the same thing. I believed, but I didn't necessarily believe that I was going to be able to do it. You know, and but in short order, I started having some profound successes with that, and so I've progressed along, and I'm on a whole other course now, but which isn't in the book, but I'm still basically on the same track, and what I found is that everybody, in the beginning, so intuitive told me, I believe everybody has these abilities.
Yep.
And I thought, well, yeah, maybe not. I don't know. But what I found is that no, that is true. We do all have these intuitive abilities. Some people are more gifted than others, just like athletes and, versus doctor, intellectuals, things like that. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, but we definitely all have these abilities. And I think most people, if you're honest and you look back on your life, different paranormal experiences that you might have had, whether it be having an intuition about some situation that was like you just knew 100% that this is what it was, and you didn't know why. Well, that's an example right there. Or maybe you've sensed something around you, or maybe you've seen something. These you're not deluding yourself. You're not seeing things. This is Everybody has it if they're open to it and willing to admit it. And it's given me a lot of peace. That was why I wrote the book, was because, I mean, one, the book, as it's kind of written in a Marley and Me fashion, at
Hmm.
least the first half of it. And so it's entertaining. I entertained myself when I was writing it. Tyson was a real character, and it's a funny story. I mean, I think people will find that part of it entertaining. It'll be worth reading just for that. But so I wrote it for that purpose, and to honor my dog and memorialize his life, but also um, the experiences that I had taught and showed me, like I said, that we do live on, that we are eternal spirits, that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and I wanted to share that with people so they too could be comforted by that. Um, and the thing is, like I said, I read that Animals and the Afterlife, and it's filled with compelling stories, but you're not gonna fully get it until you go on your own exploration. Because you read about it as one thing, it's intellectualized, but once you open yourself up and start to have those experiences for yourself, the level of peace that you get from it, and it's just so much more real and rich. And I'm hoping that the book will compel people to go on their own journey because of that.
If I can insert here just real briefly,
Sure.
because when you went to Amazon and you somewhere in your mind got the idea that I'm going to go to Amazon and I'm going to see if there's a book that fits what I need for it to do for me. And my suggestion is, if you have any questions at all about spirituality, about what happens after we die, please go to a bookstore. Please go
Hmm.
to Amazon. And because same thing happened to me. I was having I was having one of those, is this all there is experiences? Is there's
Hmm.
got to be more than this. There can't be, you know, and then
Yeah.
we just die. And I grew up in a religious family. And so in any event, so a friend said, go to a metaphysical bookstore and pick out the first book that speaks to you. And that book has formed really the basis of my journey, which was called Journey of Souls. It was by Dr. Michael Newton, and it was about the
Yeah, I know it well. Yeah.
and life between lives and stuff. And I firmly, well, I don't believe this. I know this. I was led to that book that day. It was brand new. It was just gotten out. This is like in 1999, 2000. And
Hmm.
so you were encouraged and inspired, I think that's the right word, inspired to go to Amazon to find a book that would help with your pain, help with your passion, and to get you to understand that Tyson, even though he physically wasn't there anymore, he still was.
Hmm. Absolutely, I would say that's true for sure. I was guided to read that book when I did. I mean, just look at what unfolded from it. Since then,
Now
it's
you're a
it's
police
been.
officer, and a police officer,
Hmm.
you deal with black and white a lot, not shades of gray, and so at least my
To
assumption.
some, to some, I mean, well, I would say decisions aren't black and white, but evidence certainly is. Yeah,
Yeah,
either
and
either they did it or they didn't.
that's pretty good. That's pretty cut and dried. But so you were dealing with, and what was it like for you to walk into a animal communicator? By the way, there's a good friend of mine. She's on the show all the time. Her name is Coriel Kramer. I would love to hook the two of you up at one point, but she's also an animal communicator. But what was it like for you when you walked into a place and said, "I want somebody to talk to my dead dog"?
Well, and so what I did was I actually reached out to the intuitives that book talked about. And there was, I mean, she made a
Ah,
specific reference to a couple, and so I already, I knew kind of who to reach out to. And the it, but what happened there was that the first one, didn't knock my socks off. The second one didn't either, and then the third one was sick, and she had her assistant call me and refer me to another lady that she trained with back in Iowa, Sandy Koska. And it's so, and she was the one that opened me up. We talked on the phone. And here I am out in California talking on the phone to this lady in Iowa, not via Skype. She couldn't see me or anything. And that was the other thing. People say, "Oh, they read your body language and stuff." Like, no, not when you're on the phone. They don't. So,
so
and
so
I
true.
started the conversation off with her with, I'm pretty skeptical, and I've had two readings and they really didn't convince me. And her thing was, well, I can't promise you it's going to convince you, but I can promise you that you'll get some genuine communication, and hopefully whatever's communicated will make a difference for you. Is That was ancient, and boy, it surely did.
What did she
So
say?
it wasn't. It's Say again.
What did she say? What
Well,
did
it
she?
was like what got me was I mean, she started off with with describing the relationships between the dog Tyson and different family members, which were different, but only especially between my wife and me. The difference was very subtle. You probably wouldn't pick up on it if you didn't know real well. And she described it, and then the other thing, but actually before that, the first thing she told me was that Tyson had to make me earn it, and that he was a tough egg to crack, and and he had to be that way because in order to get me to open my heart. And
Oh,
I mean, how could you? That's not typical. That's not
no.
typical of dogs. Dogs usually are, they all they want to do is please, and he wasn't like that at all. Tyson was very unique and very demanding, and a super smart. He was really a lot like he was like a human. He was like we called him our little fur person, or a person, and so it was stuff that you couldn't just guess, based on, oh, you're doing a reading, um you want to talk to your dead dog that just passed away. Obviously you were very close to him, and there was a strong connection there, and then you just make stuff up based on that. That was what the skeptic in me was expecting, but there's no way. I mean, there's the stuff she came up with was it's impossible. And then also physical ailment. She hit it on the head what his major physical ailment was, and that was unique. And so it's like, yeah, there's something here, you know.
So
So
when did you decide in your own mind that you weren't going to be skeptical of it anymore, and that you were going to actually believe, and which I assume led you to Reiki and other things that you're doing?
mhm.
And was that a powerful moment for you? And how did your
Oh yeah.
significant people around you feel about that?
So what did it was that actually it was the next session that I did with a lady named Lisa Silverman, who's a medium. And but she oh, I should point out too that Sandy Casca is an attorney. This isn't like it's not like she's these are charlatans just trying to make a quick buck, if in case people are wondering.
Right.
um these are people that were doing other things, and they somehow ended up doing this. Maybe they always had the ability, maybe they developed it on their consciously, which is kind of what I'm doing. But Lisa is an interior designer. She has her own firm, and that was the second intuitive, and it's successful. She doesn't have a need for money or anything like that. So, but she was one where she had the ability her whole life, but she sort of kept it in the closet because she didn't want to be judged. And I'm in my late 40s. She's in her actually she just turned 60, so she grew up at a time when it was much more closed off.
Yes.
And so, but what happened was my chiropractor actually, she was one of his patients, and um, he told me about her and what she had shared with him, and he's like, man, because he had just lost his dog before we lost Tyson, and so he knew what I was going through. He's like, you should call Lisa, and I bet you'd get a lot out of that. And I put it off for a while because I was still trying to process everything I was experiencing. And but once I finally called her, I had this incredible experience with her. I communicated with multiple loved ones, grandma, uncle, aunt, and also Tyson. And it was, I kid you not, it was 2 hours of like nothing but accurate information. The personalities came through, everything. And when I left that session, I was kind of in a daze, and I remember I got in my car, and I'm driving home, and it literally felt to me like I had walked into a coffee shop, and the four of them were sitting there. Tyson, sitting in his own chair, of course, you know, uh, and I sat down with them and had a cup of coffee with them, after having not seen my grandma and my uncle since I was 16 years old, 30 years. Um, and it just, that's what did it for me. That experience, it was like, there's no way, there is just no way that this is possible unless she's really talking to them. And like, because there's like, like I said, they died so long ago. There's nothing about them on my Facebook, or really any of my. I mean, it's one of those things where they were kind of an afterthought to me. not that I didn't still love them, but they'd been gone for so long. I hadn't really thought about them much in a long, long time. But when they came through, it was like, this is incredible, you know. So once that happened, I was convinced. And my wife is she's spiritual. Was religious, but much more open minded than most really staunch religious people, I would say. And so she was pretty open to what I was doing. She thought,
Good.
this is this healing process, and it's healthy for him, and but there was no judgment. And when I told her about the experiences, it was, you know, she was blown away. And my daughter, kind of, she's 12 now. She's, Pepper's done. Um, uh, so my daughter's just kind of also open, but not really having an opinion either way. But then from there, once I started studying Reiki and giving them healings with Reiki, they both were just, especially my wife from the very beginning, was just blown away by her results from the treatments that I would give her. And my daughter, same thing. Like she'll come if she's got something going on now, she'll come to me, hey, can you give me some Reiki? Because she's, and my wife, my wife, for her, it's like, she just absolutely loves it. You know?
When
So
now,
it's
for those of you that have never gone through a session with Reiki, it really is akin to having a energy pulse through your body that is correcting the things that can be corrected through energy, and it can make you feel completely different. And the person that is administering it is nothing but, and you were right, it's nothing but a conduit. The
Mhm.
energy comes from the other side, and it has knowledge, and it has an idea what you need, and it can be a really profound experience. it can
It
it
can
can
be, yeah.
and even to the point I've had friends that are psychics and things that will go through a Reiki session, and they'll start spouting off things while they're having the Reiki session. Have you ever had that happen?
I've I've had I've had messages like, the other thing about this, and this might throw people that are already having trouble wrapping their brain around it, and throw a whole nother dimension into this. So Reiki, it's administered through the laying on of hands, but it can also be sent through time and space. Okay, so
Yeah.
because it's spiritual energy, um, it's not limited by the physical geography or time. It's time. Time is just a tool that we have in this dimension to make order of things. It in the spiritual realm, and it's not necessary. So once you understand that, and the other thing, once you understand that we are all energy, we're just so concentrated, that we appear to be solid. Um, that we're all susceptible to energy. So once you realize that, it makes sense that you could send it to somebody. But I'll tell you what. When I first learned how to do that, I was pretty skeptical. And I don't know. I mean, I can see that I can put my hands physically on somebody and do it. That makes sense. But could I really send it? And well, first thing I did was I started sending to my friend's daughter, who had chronic migraines, dropped out of college, and nothing had helped these migraines for years. And her life was basically being put on hold because she couldn't get control of these migraines. As soon as I started sending them to her, they stopped. I sent to her I just kept going for a while, but I sent to her for about 2 weeks, and they still haven't come back. This was several years ago. And they just, that was it. And I was like, okay. Maybe there is something to this. But where was I going with that?
But does she believe that you were able to send her energy, and that was the source of the healing?
Yeah, I mean, at first,
Hard
when
to deny.
I first offered it to her, she's like, "Oh, that's so sweet, sure," I mean, she genuinely appreciated it, but it was one of those things where she took it as a nice gesture, not as something that was legitimately going to help her. But I'll tell you what, yeah, I'd say she's a believer now for sure.
Called you later and said, "Holy crap, they're gone."
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, but I know what I was going to talk to you about, the different experiences. So I've had I've got people that I send with, classmates and things like that, and I've had messages come, through them meant for me, like where they get messages and they relay them to me, and it's like, okay, like there's no way they could know to give me that message. I have, on several occasions, I have been able to, while I'm sending to somebody, I've been able to see somebody in their life, in their energy field, that I have never met before, and I describe the person to them, and they're like, "Oh, that's my," with one and my friend in particular, daughter. I saw her daughter one time when I was sending. Another time, I saw a musician that she'd recently become a fan of. I
Wow.
described the lady to, so, and and if you meditate and do that sort of stuff enough, I have similar experiences all the time with that, where I'll be meditating and I'll see faces, and it's, actually, I was at a class a couple weeks ago, and this will blow you away. One of my classmates, who I was working on her, we were doing energy healing, not Reiki, but just healing. And while I was working on her, I got a flash in my head of this guy, like young guy with a smile on his face. And I described it to her, and she said, um, "That's my brother." And the thing is, we her brother had committed suicide several years ago.
Right.
So, I said, "Well, can I see a picture of him?" And the picture she showed me was what I saw. I had actually seen the image on that photograph. And like, people, I know there's people that are going to hear what I'm saying. They're going to think, "Oh, bullshit." Sorry, I don't.
Nope.
Not
Nope. You're
not
allowed.
good.
On this format,
You
you're
think?
allowed. When we
Okay.
get to KKNW on Monday, the guy will be hitting what's called the dump button. There's a 7-second delay, and he'll be running
Okay.
for the dump button. But that's
I'm pretty good about it. I just came out, but I mean, I know there's people that are going to be skeptical and think, that I'm making this up. But, again, this is one of those things where I'm sharing my story because I'm encouraging other people to do their own exploration. Because I guarantee you, if you do this with an open mind, and pursue it with genuine intent, you will find yourself having these same experiences. I'm not special. This is something we all have the ability to do.
it's like a
um,
muscle,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
you are exercising the muscle, and the more you exercise it, and the more you understand the signs, the better off, the more clear it becomes. Um,
Well, it's interesting you say that too, because it really is, you're, like you said, the guides, teachers, in the spirit realm, they're assisting us, and they're giving you images. They're giving you, as far as, clairsentience, they're helping you to feel things at a certain time, and that's a language in itself. But it's something that each one of us has to develop for ourselves, because an image to you might mean something different than what it would mean to me. But what I found is that I went to a class on channeling, okay, just recently, and
cool.
that's not something I had done before. I'd kind of solely done the energy healing, and what I found was that there was three different times over like a couple week period where I'd get images of marshmallows roasting, and when I'm doing a reading on somebody, and this is all just popping up in your head spontaneously. It's not, you have to clear your mind, but it had happened, and I thought, what the hell does that mean? Does it mean go camping? Does it mean get out in nature? And what I found it means for me is, the message that I'm supposed to give to them when I get that is, chill out, relax, take it in, enjoy your family, just relax, you know. And that, because that's what you're doing when you're roasting marshmallows. But it took me a minute to figure that out, and I'm, you know, I've got the vocabulary of a 2-year-old at this point. So it's, as far as with this stuff. So it's very much, I'm at my infancy with it, but that's just an example.
It's interesting because some people would say, "Well, by gosh, why don't they just talk to you?" And it's because they don't have a voice box anymore, and they're not physical, so they don't have a mouth. But what they do have is the ability to influence you through your mind and through the energy that they can send you if you're open to it. If
Hmm.
you're not open to it, it doesn't matter. I my radio show started in 2003, and I had a psychic medium who came on all the time. And one of the things that we had to say was, if you're not open to it, if you close down, and if your mind is closed around it, it is very difficult for the other side to get through. So you need to be
Yeah.
open,
Well,
so
no.
that the communication can happen.
Well, and that, I mean, what you're saying is absolutely true. But for, put it into more like scientific terms, I just so for the skeptics, because I think a lot of people say, well, if you're not open to it because you're skeptical, and if you are open to it, you're convincing yourself, right? You're basically the suspension of disbelief, as they like to say in movies, right? But what it actually is that energy. We're all energy. The information that you're getting is coming in the form of energy, and all energy operates on different frequencies, right? So the plane that we're in operates on a certain frequency, the physical plane, and it's much slower. It's a much slower frequency than the spiritual realm. So in order for us to be able to tune in, it's like you're on AM radio for a radio to be able to pick up your signal, they have to tune that radio into that frequency in order to hear it. Well, the human, the spirit, as a conduit for the message that's coming through, has to also tune into a certain frequency, and the spiritual message that's coming in, whoever's sending it has to tune down their frequency in order to connect. So if you're skeptical, or you're doing it like, hey, prove it to me, um, you're not going to be, your frequency isn't going to be as high or high enough for you to connect. The frequency of love, the energy of love is of the highest frequency. And so that's one of the things that I've been taught is as you're doing this stuff, first off, get your ego out of the way. We're not You're not doing this to show how badass you are, or how enlightened you are, or any of that. You're doing this because it's real. You're doing it with the intent of helping and spreading this message to other people, and helping other people to see it as well. You're doing it in essence. You're doing it from a position of love, um, and love for your fellow human, for your fellow spirit. And when you come at it from that perspective, your frequency naturally rises, and it makes it easier for you to connect with these messages. I know this. I like I said, I was recently in this school, and it really blew me away. It yeah. It was things I was like, I'm never going to be able to do this, but I'll take the class anyway because, you know,
Sure, you
because,
can.
well, I hadn't, after meditating and doing all this stuff for a couple of years, I still wasn't. I was progressing at a very slow rate, and I still am. But I thought, well, my talent clearly is lower level. I'm not going to be able to get where I want to be, with what talent I have. But I've got my abilities. I'm good at the energy healing and that sort of thing. But what I found was that, yeah, in my class there were a couple people that were more talented than most of the group, but all of us were able to do things that we didn't think we were capable of doing. And so, and it came from, the instructors fostering a very open, loving environment. And I don't mean like, hey, everybody drop your drawers and free love, free dope. I'm talking about just a very, open environment where everybody was caring with each other and trusting of each other. And yeah, we all had a remarkable experience. So it's I highly recommend anybody do it. It's called. Can I talk about the place I took the class?
Absolutely.
At Delphi University, Delphi. It's in Georgia, and it's a really remarkable place, really awesome place.
In Georgia?
It's in Georgia, right?
That's
That's
a
what
fun
right.
fact.
Yeah, it's a ways. It's out there, but it was worth the trip. I'm gonna take more classes there.
How long were you out there?
The class was it was 8 days. Started on a Saturday, ended on a Saturday.
Oh,
So,
I tell you, I would love to do one of those. I would love to do one of
oh,
those.
I highly recommend it.
By the way,
Yeah.
we're talking with Brandon Wainwright. He has written the book Tyson's Gift. It's about his dachshund and the cataclysmic changes and for the positive that happened when Tyson passed away. And it's the cool thing is, Brandon, it is a continuing process that you are
Mhm.
under, and it is moving forward at the rate that it's supposed to. And so
Mhm.
you just let it be. That's according to the gospel, according to St. Paul McCartney. Just let it be, and
That's yeah.
and it will transform itself. I gotta ask you, um, are you a music guy? Do you like music? Do you
Oh
listen to
yeah,
music?
sure.
You get messages through music, don't you?
Well, I I have had like different songs, definitely. Songs that where yeah, I have. That's
Where
in the book too. That's in the book too. So
and
one song specifically.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
it is amazing. I don't know how they do it, how they line it up, but you can be listening to one radio station one day and be listening to something else the next day. The same song will come on right when you turn on the radio.
Mhm.
It really is wrong. It's remarkable what they do. And see, in my world, and tell me if you agree with this. In my world, we have a committee. We have a whole group of people that are dedicated to us becoming the best person, the best self that we can be, and what we've chosen to do before we came here. And they're
Mhm.
there to help us do that the best way that we can. And if
Yeah.
we're open to it, they will provide us windows here, a doorway there, an interview that you do with somebody that is going to play really well on the radio on Monday. Those sorts of things just will, if you just let it be, they just will naturally happen for you.
Absolutely. Synchronicities, serendipities. Yeah, that if you look, I think most people, if they look back on their lives, it, it- they're where they're at now because they either listened or didn't listen. And it, I always have to, because I right now I'm going through a transitional period actually with my job and things like that. But I've been pretty successful, pretty fortunate, and and I look back on it though, and it's like, yeah, well, it was a combination of a lot of luck and a lot of a lot of hard work, but more importantly, a lot of guidance at the right time. There were things that fell into place because ultimately, yeah, you think you have control. No, you don't have control. You need to be listening. I think people, if they can learn to tune into that realm, into their intuition, into the messages that they're getting, um, that is more integral to your success than any amount of forcing it or hard work or whatever. I mean, it's not easy to do. Relying on your intuition and yielding to the universe is very difficult, and it is for me today, even to this day. For sure. But the reality is that that's the right route to take if for success. And that doesn't mean monetary success necessarily. That means success in getting on in track with what your life mission is and what's going to be most fulfilling to you.
I know, and I can give you example after example of how the universe will line up what you need financially to be able to do what you want to do and what you are being guided to do. Because
Yeah.
they don't want you to have a lot of pain and suffering and stuff.
No.
They want you to be successful, but the time has to be right and you have to line it up.
Hmm.
And sometimes you have the intention, but the timing isn't right. It's like the story I tell about the 50,000-foot view. We're in a forest. We get to see the tree in front of us and the tree behind us. And so we're walking. We have to trust that we're walking in the right direction in the right way because we don't get to have the 50,000-foot view. That's the guys on the other side that are saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, take a little right here, take a little right there, take this step here, and if you go over there, that's where the lake and the meadow are."
Yeah.
But you've got to trust
But
that.
sometimes I want to tell them, well, damn it. Can you just can you just bring me up in a balloon just for a minute so I could just look
Exactly.
and
See where I'm going. I
but that
have no earthly idea.
but that would that would take the fun out of it though, right? I mean,
Oh,
you
exactly.
know.
Exactly. And the whole thing, it's designed to work synergistically with you and your hopes and your dreams, to give you the life that you wanted for yourself, and also to be kind and generous and loving to all mankind.
Well, I think, I mean, I've always been a pretty empathetic, caring person, but that still though life's challenges and your stresses and that still has a tendency to to challenge you in those areas. But one thing I found through this process as well is that when you're learning these universal truths and you're learning that we're all connected and you're learning that we all come from the same place, and um, it makes it easier to love your fellow man. It really does. It makes it easier to uh, see yourself in them, even if I'll see people that are like at work. We have a huge homeless problem here, as they do where you live as well. And you see some people that are just a mess, and you think it'd be real easy to just to condemn them and say, well, you you made these horrible decisions, you're doing these horrible things, you're destroying your body, you're destroying the community or whatever. um, but the reality is that they're a spirit just like you are, and they're on their own journey and having their own struggles, obviously. And and it for me, it's made it so you can look at somebody with much more compassion, and like I said, not that I wasn't already like that, but it's made it even more so for me, because this is the thing that bonds us all, the spirit,
And
and animals too.
and
I mean,
they're part of that they're part of the family.
absolutely. And that's that one thing I want to say too, is that Tyson, um, I don't worship him or anything, but I'll tell you what, that boy he's a powerful spirit, every bit as powerful as I am, on a spiritual level. And they deserve our respect because of that, you know.
They do. When I was growing up, and my family was a pretty religious family, and my mother always said that I got the biggest kick. My mother always said that animals have no soul. Animals are different than us in that we have an eternal soul, that they don't have an eternal soul. I vehemently have always disagreed with that. When I watched my 2 dogs pass, it confirmed for me that they have a light in them that leaves when they die, and they are an eternal soul just like we are. They're just and we owe them, and we owe all animals the right to the respect that they deserve. And Tyson, he was the guy who got you. When you think about this, it's a dachshund who took you from where you
Dachshund
were.
Chihuahua. Dachshund
Oh,
Chihuahua.
Chihuahua. Gotcha. Okay. Those can be really mean dogs too.
Chihuahuas? Oh yeah, they
Yeah.
can be.
And but this wonderful dog took you and said, "Come here, boy. We're gonna go this way,"
Mhm.
and took you and led you down that road. Look where you are now. Had you not met Tyson, had he not had that influence on you, you wouldn't be anywhere near where you are today.
No, that's true. And I don't think that it wasn't, not just any dog could have done it. I mean, I'm an animal lover, always have been. And if Tyson had been just any dog, I would have loved that dog, dearly, I'm sure. But no other creature, no other soul could have penetrated my soul the way he did. I don't think, anyway.
Now we're going to run out of time, but I work with a gal in Seattle. Her name is Martha Norwalk. She is convinced that there are times when a dog will reincarnate itself and it will figure out a way to get back into your family because your work together isn't done yet. Do you
Hmm.
believe in that?
I've experienced it. Yep, yep, yep.
So
That-
Pepper, who we were, by the way, Pepper just adores you. You can just tell the way
uh,
she looks at your eyes and stuff, just adores you. But Pepper has a past that you're kind of convinced about now.
yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, Pepper is. Wait, let's just put it this way: her nickname's Pepper T. Pepper T. If that tells you anything. So
Yes, indeed, because
yeah.
your work together wasn't done,
No, and
and,
I
Tyson found a
hope
way back.
I to be honest with you, I hope it doesn't get done in this life either. And, that's the thing. It's that yeah. I hope that she sticks around and comes back again. Um, Although I've been
How
told I asked for that already, and she got mad at me and told me to back off.
so so
So,
so how old is Pepper now?
she is. Let's see. She's 2 years and 5 months.
She can live another 15 years, 17 years. My
Oh yeah,
sister lost a little dog, and but it lived 18 years, so you got
it
lots of
just goes
time.
by so quick, though. It's just never enough. But I brush their teeth almost every day. Sometimes I miss a day, but I'm real big on the dental hygiene and taking good care of them because I didn't do that. I brushed Tyson's teeth, but not near enough. I only did it like maybe once or twice a week at the most. I'm going to do it a lot more because I think I hopefully that'll help them live longer.
I have to tell you a
Yeah.
story, and, when I got into the radio thing, I was a successful restaurateur and salesperson and that kinda thing, and I did the radio thing. I met a gal by the name of Kim Miller, who was a psychic medium, and she also was an animal communicator, which really they all are, because it's just energy, as you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
And so my dog Crockett wasn't feeling very good. I saw him throwing up in the backyard and stuff, and he was lethargic and wasn't eating much. And so I was on my way to do a radio show, and in my car, and I called Kim Miller, and I said to her, Kim, Crockett's not feeling very well. Do you have any idea? And she's oh, and she said, um, I think he's got cancer. Uh, and so I took him to the vet, and the gal said, well, we'll run some blood tests and we'll do some. And I said, no, do me a favor, take an X-ray of his abdomen because that's what Kim told me to do. Take an X-ray of his abdomen and then let me know. And the vet was only 10 minutes away from my house. I had no more walked in the door when I get a call from them saying you can come pick Crockett up. I need to talk to you. And so when I got back, he had a grapefruit-sized tumor in his stomach and in that area. And she said, we can keep him alive for a little while, but I didn't want him to suffer. And he was so I let him go that day, Valentine's Day, 2004.
Mhm.
You know
That's
how
yeah, and so you weren't expecting it. It was just yeah.
and the kids went to school, and they came back and Crocker was gone. Because I didn't want to put them through him getting in the car and with them there, and it would have been that much horrific for them. But what I got out of that was this: how the hell did Kim know that without a doubt? And she was
Mm.
clear. It wasn't like, well, you might check and see. It was like, no, he's got cancer in his abdomen, and I'm so sorry. And so that was just another. I got hundreds of examples of people that psychic mediums and stuff that have had a positive impact on people's lives because of what they
Mhm.
can tell them.
Yeah.
And they can make them more comfortable. And John Edward was a great one. John Holland was another great one. There are so many, and I just discovered another one, and his name is Brandon Wainwright, and
Mhm.
you're going to be able to help people to a degree that you have no idea yet how important you're going to be.
No, that was the whole idea here is, the people, it's it hasn't gotten out there as much as I would like, but I've had enough people already tell me how much the book has helped them to where I know that as much effort as it took to write it, it was well worth it. It's
It's
so
it's
hopefully more people will read it though, because I think you're right. I think it really has the potential to give a lot of people peace and you know and there'll be more books. It's just like I said, I got to live the experiences before I can write them.
Yeah. Well, and the biggest part is it gives people the idea that if you are searching, if you're wondering if this is all there is, and there's some seems to be something around midlife, and you might call it a midlife crisis. They've been calling that for years. I think and somebody said this to me just the other day. No, it's a midlife awakening.
Mm.
Bec-
Choosing this as opposed to a red Ferrari.
Exactly. Exactly.
This as opposed to running from reality. You're running to reality.
And you're
Uh,
looking for this can't be all there is. I want to make a difference in my life, in the difference of the people, in the lives of people around me, and potentially the world. And that's why my mission, Brandon, is to bring people like you out into the open so that people can understand that everybody can do this.
mhm.
Um, but and I know that your publicist or somebody said to you at one time, Brandon, you're a cop. If anybody can believe somebody can go through this, and you were a cop, it's you, because you're not going to lie to us.
No, I'm not. I'm not. It's yeah, it definitely. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that the fact that I am will help people to maybe trust it a little bit. You know,
You
these
are.
people that don't hate cops. you know.
That's another story for another
Yeah,
time.
I'm happy to come on for that too if you want.
At one point, but I'll tell you what. I would love for you to be on the show. Well, you're going to be on the show on Monday. You can't stop it. I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah, I'm
But
excited.
I would love to do more work with you. Will you? Can we do more work together?
Absolutely, I'd love it. I've really had a good time.
I'm
I feel like
glad.
I'm talking to a kindred spirit. So you know,
I
it's
feel the same
yeah.
way. And you're as they say in the biz, an awesome dude, and you're a
Oh,
hell of a writer, and you've got a future in this business. I think that there's a move. I think there's a movie coming. I think there's a lot more stuff that is going to happen for you, and I think it's really cool. So,
well, thank you.
Brandon,
I think
you're
you're a
welcome.
pretty awesome dude too, Kevin. Thank you.
Well, gosh, thank you very much, sir. It's this is a path. This has been my mission for 20 years, and the cool thing is I've got a team that's surrounding myself with love and compassion, and they're helping me so that we can take this to another whole nother place, a whole nother level, so that I when I that we can have a lot of people that are listening to people like you, the inspiring stories of how they can do this for themselves. It's not about exterior stuff. It's not stuff that's outside of yourself. It's all in here, and you can do it. You've done it.
hmm
You're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a hard it's a hard thing to wrap your brain around. It really is. It's taken me a long time to fully, and I'm still growing in it. This isn't something that I'm like I said, I'm in my infancy, but at
Lifelong
least
thing.
yeah. But we humans, especially in the Western world, have such a focus on the exterior and material things and status and which I'm not knocking those things, but it detracts from other realities and that are more valid, and it takes some time to change your paradigm, your way of thinking about things. But when if you're open to it, it'll incrementally happen and it'll enrich your life and bring you a lot of peace. And that's what's happened for me. So I'm hoping that I can help other people do the same thing. Not just, I mean, I think it'll bring people a lot of peace, bring people a lot of, joy. And, if every person that's more peaceful and happy makes the world a better place. So, and we could use that right
Okay.
now.
There's so much hate, division, and fear out there, and it really is sad. I just had as in closing, I just have to ask you the one question: what's it like to walk into the precinct, and for people to know what you're doing now? Do you get the like, hey, it's a Reiki master? Do you get that kind of stuff? Or do they leave you alone?
They leave me alone for the most part. I'll give them, hey, come here, come here, come here. Let me give you some Reiki, and then put my hands out, and they're like, no, no, get away from me, So, that sort of thing. But I've had, I've had several of my colleagues that have been open to it, that I've healed, and I've done it in some cases even with an audience of other officers that made fun of us while we were doing it, but they watched it happen. They watched the healing happen. So that's been pretty cool. Fortunately for me, I've been doing this for a few years, and they know that I'm not just I'm not a kook, and I'm not somebody that they can't count on in the field. I'm not somebody that's not going to step up when necessary. Um, and because of that, I think they, at the very least, they accept it and say, "Well, I'm happy for him. He seems to be helping him out." I've had people even tell me that. Well, no, I don't believe it, but I'm sure glad it's helping you. which, which whatever, I can handle it. But I mean, like I said, a handful of my colleagues, it has opened them up, and in some cases, they've even one officer in particular, some of this stuff actually helped him with the case he was working. So,
Oh wow.
and I won't
So
get any details on that, but
don't need to.
but it definitely, it's somebody that made fun of me a little bit in the beginning, and then was kind of blown away by it. So, it's one of those things where it's incremental, it's slow doses,
It's
and over time, people, and I think we're in a period in history right now where a lot of people are awakening.
yep. I
um,
couldn't agree
and
more.
they say that's because of where the stars are aligned and the energy in the universe, and I think that's probably got something to do with it. But I definitely, whatever it is, I think that we're in the next, you know in our lifetimes, we're going to see big changes with regards to people's view on these types of concepts. I think it's going to become a reality for a lot more people, or people are going to become a lot more conscious of it. That's a better way to put it, which I think is going to do nothing but help the world and the universe.
Well, and I think the other side is saying, guys, we're running out of time. We've got to
Mhm.
do something fairly quickly because you don't have generations at this point. You've got to make some pretty significant changes today.
Yeah, and well, and the thing is, we all, a lot of people want to focus on the problems of the world, and yeah, I mean, they're significant. They keep me up at night, if I'm honest. But if you start with yourself, if everybody would just start with themselves instead of, but that's the hardest place to start, if you're honest. It's
It
so
is.
easy to point the finger at other people, point the finger at other political parties, whatever it is. If you start with yourself, you be the example. Like energy attracts like energy. You'll find that your world will become better, and the world will become better.
It was way back in 2000, maybe 2001, when I picked up Conversations with God. And that was the first time that I'd ever heard the statement, we are all one.
Hmm.
And if we
We are one.
recognized that we are all one energy, one people, we are all one tribe, there is no other, there's just us, it could change the world. I firmly believe that.
Absolutely. It's interesting you say that, because I've had, um, I, one of the forms of Reiki, the placements and ignitions that you receive come in the form of meditations. And one of the ones I had, where it was pretty profound, where I had an experience, and I found myself just like out, looking down on galaxies, like where it started off on the Earth, and I wasn't making it up. This is something I was on a ride, and and what I saw was the words "We are one," and it was pretty profound for me. I mean, we've all heard that term before, but it just the way it came through me, the way it was all laid out, it was pretty powerful.
And it's a fact. It's
Hmm.
not conjecture, it's not wishful thinking, it's not a belief, it is a fact. We are all one.
Yeah.
And the sooner we recognize that, the better off we'll all be.
As one of the quotes that they said several times in that class I took was from Gandhi: "Be the change you want to see."
That's
Yeah.
that's that's also a
So it's
wonderful way of
the
saying the
same
same
thing.
thing.
Start with number one, and it'll grow from there.
Yeah. It's like
Not that
even in the
that's
Bible.
easy.
No, it's not. But like even in the Bible, it says, "Love your neighbor as you love yourself." So you have
Hmm.
to start with loving yourself before you can love anybody else.
That's absolutely true. I it's funny because that concept is, it sounds so abstract, but it's really not. It just takes some time to fully understand it. You ch-
Yep.
you try trying to get love through other people instead of loving yourself enough times, you learn it. You know.
And that's
So
that's
and that's
and
probably
so
like you said, midlife. By the time you get to midlife, you most people get it. To some
well, and
extent.
if you try and do stuff outside of yourself and find love outside of yourself, eventually you may have Officer Wainwright come to your door because of domestic violence or something like that because you're not doing it the right way. You're doing it backwards, and you can't find love outside of yourself, and then you can love somebody.
Even the most loving person on earth can't provide another person with the constant source of love that they can't
No.
provide for themselves. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, Brandon, we've gone over time, and I want to thank you
Yeah.
because I am thoroughly enjoying this conversation. You're going to get more of it on Monday at 9 a.m. on KKNW, and hopefully we're gonna sell a few books. And
Yeah, I hope so.
now, are you also because, as you know, Reiki is don't have to be in the same room. Are you also open to practicing Reiki for somebody over the phone and
Oh,
doing stuff
sure.
like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I you know, I I would actually love to do that for a living, to be honest with you. I think
It's
that would
it's
be
the
so
highest
much
calling.
fun.
It really
Yeah,
is the
but
highest
but
calling.
but it's one of those things where it's difficult to make a living at it. Most people that do Reiki for a living, they make at least they make most of their money teaching. Well, nothing wrong with that. Those are the types of people that spread it around the world. Um, I, I so far haven't done it for money. I've done hundreds of sessions, but it's always been for friends. But I would love it's different. There's a special fulfillment that comes when somebody says, "Hey, can you send me this because I could use some help with this?" And then you like really feel like you're doing something important, and especially when they get a direct result from it. So yeah, I'm definitely open to that. Absolutely.
Well, and what my hope for you and my prayer for you is that you find a way to be able to come up with enough money to live your life in the style you'd like to live it and be able to do your passion. If you can do that, then that's what the universe has in mind for you.
I hope so. you
So
know,
we're gonna
we'll see.
we're gonna sell a few books, and hopefully, you got another book coming, and there's gonna be more. That you're just gonna blossom out and do a lot of stuff. I know that's true.
Do you want me to give the like where they can get it?
Absolutely, please.
It's, it is if you go to you can get it on Amazon.com. Or the even easier way to get it would be to go to tysonsgift.com, TYSONSGIFT.com, and there's a button there. It says shop now. Click on that. It'll take you to the Amazon page directly. Then you don't even have to search it. You can also contact me if you want to on the website and read a little bit about the book. You can also get it on barnesandnoble.com if you're opposed to Amazon, uh, or just Google the title, and there's a number of bookstores you can get it from as well. And right now it's on Kindle and paperback, and I'm in the process of having an audiobook made right now. So hopefully it
Oh,
won't be too
really?
long before that's available. Yeah, I know a lot of people prefer those, um, so I'm
Have you
excited
picked
about
somebody
that.
to voice it for you already?
Yeah, it's being recorded. Yeah, as we
Yeah,
speak. So
I've done that, and
have you?
that's oh yeah, it is a time consuming process.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was hard. It was time consuming just to find the right voice. I had like between 35 and 40 auditions, and I was like, man, and it was hard too because they all had their dog stories that they shared with me with the when they sent the it's like, oh, I want to give it to you. I wanted to give them all the job, because they all could
Right.
relate to the story. But ultimately, I think I picked the right guy. He's got his voice most closely resembled my own, and it that was why I went with them.
You got a great voice. You could have done it yourself, but that's a lot of work with the editing and all that stuff.
The technical, I didn't want it to come out technically deficient and then end up having it rejected or something.
Yeah, no, I get it. And it's expensive. And fortunately I've learned all of that stuff, so I can do all of that editing
I'll
stuff.
have to keep that in mind. You never know.
If you want me to do that, I would happily do the next one. I've been told I do a decent job. So, but that's up to you. It's just a matter of what you think about and what resonates with you, really.
Yeah.
Brandon Wainwright, go to tysonsgift.com, right?
tysonsgift.com or amazon.com. Yep, those are the two easiest ways.
And you're going to be on the show on KKNW 1150 AM Monday morning, this coming Monday, which is the 18th of October, 2021. If you get this down the road sometime, go to Tyson's Gift. I'm sure you can contact Brandon. And if you're struggling, if you are wondering, if you'd like to get a little bit of a path, he might be able to help you a little bit. So he does a great job. So Brandon, thank you. And at this point, I allow the guests to say, get your soapbox out and to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know.
I wrote this book to help people and to share my beautiful dog story. And that's what I hope it does for you. I hope I guarantee you'll be entertained by it, if nothing else. And it's a quick read. It's only a couple hundred pages, but I think it'll make a difference for you. And, I hope you give it a shot.
So if you run across it and you are on Amazon or you're in a bookstore and you run across that book and you've got questions, it's no accident that you found the book.
Yeah. Have to agree with you there.
So there, Brandon Wainwright's been our guest, and go to tysonsgift.com. It's a great book. It's very heartwarming, very heartfelt, and you'll also learn something. It's really cool. So please do that, and then we're gonna have a great time on Monday. So if you'll stay right there, I got to do this, and I'll be right back. Hey, and thanks for listening to this episode all the way to the end. Hey, pretty cool. Hey, don't forget to follow us so you can receive regular updates and new posts. And remember, take care of each other because each other's all we've got. See you next time on My Independence Report.